Florida State plays its biggest game of the year in just a couple of days, and all you guys have asked about all week has been, what is the injury status of some of the guys who missed the last couple of weeks or maybe got banged up in that Boston College game? Are we getting anybody back? Is anybody healthy? Is anybody 100% ready to go that we've been missing? Well, let's dive into it. Let's chat about what we're hearing on some of the different guys that have been banged up, have been hurt, and what FSU's health is going forward. Now, I'll say this. Florida State is very tight-lipped about injuries. You almost have to, be in a back alleyway to find anything out or try and get any information on this. So we're doing our very best on it. And I think that a lot of this is what we're hearing, but also what Florida State will allow to trickle out because they are pretty tight-lipped about it. Let's start at the very top. I'm not going to bury this. I think Jordan Travis is ready to go 100%. Is he still banged up? Yes, I've been told kind of off record what's going on there, and I don't anticipate there being any lingering issues. I think it's about pain tolerance. Obviously, it's a great thing that it's not on his throwing shoulder. You saw him come right back in the game and throw a nice deep ball in the start of the second half against Boston College. I think JT is good to go here. Again, good to go relative term, possibly with it being something that I'm sure is not comfortable, but I don't think it's going to have any kind of impact on his game. And I think Florida State is going to have to run Jordan Travis in this game, and that may be uncomfortable at times for him, but at the end of the day, I think losing to Clemson this weekend as a favorite would be more uncomfortable. So I won't speak for him to say that 100%, but I think he will go out there, and Florida State's plan last week was to run him less. I think you'll see him be more of a weapon there. I think he's good to go. What about blocking for him? I think about Robert Scott and Maurice Smith. I expect both those guys to be back and available this week. Smith, I'm a little more confident in. Scott's injury is something that I feel like has kind of been nagging at him for a while. Smith's actually is too, but I just think that with what both of them have going on, I expect Smith to be back out there and starting. I think that Washington did a fairly decent job while he was out there playing these last couple of weeks, but I think, if either one of those games would have been Clemson, I actually think that Smith would have possibly given it a go. I think that getting Washington the reps was big, but I think that Smith brings an entirely different level, especially in run blocking, and so I really like him to be back out there. I think, Byers has been good. There have been some good replacements for Scott, but if Scott's ready to go, I think he's going to help you there on that side as well. About some guys that got banged up in the Boston College game. Tatum Bethune, Jaheim Bell. I expect both guys back. I don't really think there's a major issue there. There would have to be, based on what I've been told, some kind of a setback for either one of them to not play. Jaheim, I believe, got back in the game after he tweaked what looked like a lower leg, maybe an ankle. I think both those guys will be set and kind of good to go. Don't really expect any kind of limitations there, and that's really good news. Florida State needs Jaheim Bell. This offense is nearly unguardable anyway, but you add him into the mix and what he can do and the matchup nightmare that he is, and Florida State's offense is on a completely different level. Same thing with Bethune. He's kind of the QB of the defense back there. He is, when he's on, one of the best players on the field, and Florida State needs the depth at linebacker. I don't think they love the way that some of the young guys have come in and played. That's no slight at young guys. It takes time to kind of grow into the player that you want some of these guys you recruited to be, but I think they really need Tatum out there, and I expect both those guys back. Want to talk about Akeem Dent, want to talk about a couple other guys here in just a moment, but I do want to give some love to our friends over at Garnet and Gold. You make sure you're shopping there for all of the best in FSU apparel, athletic wear, whether you're looking for the jerseys that we're showing on screen now or whatever you are in the mood for FSU apparel-wise. Make sure that you're shopping only at garnetandgold.com. If you're in Tallahassee or in a surrounding area, you can go in-store, but you can use the code NOSLAW for 15% online. You can do in-store pickup, so you don't have to pay for the shipping, and you'll save some money by supporting garnetandgold.com. All right, a couple of guys that we haven't seen in a while, Kentron Portier and Ja'Kai Douglas. I would be surprised if either one of these guys came back this week. I think that Florida State Could get some good news after the bye week, but I don't necessarily think that either one of them are close in this one. I think Kentron's probably a little closer than Ja'Kai, but I'm not super hopeful that he's out there. I do think he would add another level of depth to that wide receiver room. I think he does some pretty spectacular things. You've got an obvious 1-2 punch of Johnny and Keon. I think that having Kentron out there would be really, really nice, but I just don't know that I see it happening this week. And then the big one, a lot of questions on Akeem Dent back there in the secondary. He's one that I am hopeful will play this weekend. I think that if this was the NFL and you were putting an official tag on it, which obviously Florida State doesn't do, the ACC doesn't require, the NCAA doesn't require, but if he was playing in the NFL, I think you'd probably put the questionable tag on him, but I'd be closer to probable than doubtful, right? You know how the NFL works. Good to go, probable, questionable, doubtful, or out. I'd have him at questionable, but I believe he's closer to playing than not playing. I've been told by one source that he is day to day, and I think that he will end up giving it a go. I think that with what we're assuming his injury was, what we're assuming is hindering him or maybe hampering him, is probably something that could go at any time. And so that's my biggest fear. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him out there starting game one or play one up there at Clemson. But I also wouldn't be shocked to see him kind of re-injure or re-aggravate that issue that he's having right now. Without going into a crazy ton of detail onto what these guys' specific injuries are, I think that Dent will go. Obviously, you could have setbacks. You could have something in warm-ups that tweaks wrong, and he's just not able to go. But I believe he will be good to go. There's some confidence that I'm hearing that he'll be ready. Again, we'll see what happens. We'll see what things look like in a couple of days, where he is when warm-ups have happened, how much he's able to kind of test that leg and what he's able to do. But I am leaning toward Dent playing. He's probably the one that I'm the most unsure of everyone we've talked about. Again, outside of Kentron and Ja'Kai, I don't necessarily expect those guys. But he's probably the one I'm most worried about. And he's the position that I think you, outside of maybe QB, that you really want out there. I think some other guys that filled in for him just didn't play up to snuff. They weren't super great this past week at that safety position. And so I think having Akeem back would be massive for this team. Clemson's not got a good wide receiver core. Their quarterback hasn't looked great at times this year, and you don't want to give them any potential holes, windows, or openings to get things in that passing game going if you don't have to. Going to be a big week for a lot of guys. If Dent is banged up or not able to go or has to come out, somebody's got to step up and be that guy. I think Noles did an okay job at times, but he certainly struggled at other times. And so we certainly need to see all of that picked up on Saturday. Listen, we spent 45 minutes breaking down the Clemson game, going into it, talking about what we expected, what we thought would happen. We made some wild predictions. I kicked Richie and Harlan's tail in the more or less game. So go check that out by clicking right here.